Hello.
Hello.
Hi. We are here with another Kingdom Animalia lesson, and this time we're going to dive deeper. I told you last time we're going to dive deeper into phylum Chordata, which were the creatures with a spinal cord. So we're going to open this up and see what we have. Okay, you can see we still have all of our phylums that we've been studying. Some of you have researched something from every phylum, and I've seen some really cool things like Hydra and blue sea cucumber. And what else have I seen? Glass sponges. So it's really cool to see all the different things that have been researched in Kingdom Animalia. So last time we talked about phylum Chordata, and we talked about how we're all part of phylum Chordata, and we talked about how we're related to the sharks. The sharks are also in this phylum. Today, we're looking at phylum Chordata, but we're looking even smaller or even more narrow into Subphylum Vertebrata. Now, Subphylum Vertebrata gets its name from vertebrae, which is joint of the spine, or vertebrae, like we think of our vertebrae as the bones that are surrounding our spinal cord, but the root of it means joint of the spine. So we're going to look at Subphylum Vertebrata. Okay, there are a lot of word cards in here, so you're going to see a long slideshow or maybe a slideshow repeat a couple times. Here are some pictures. We've got beavers and bluefish and mountain bluebird and a boa constrictor. And of course, our little circle here has some humans on it. Okay, and you can see there's lots of cards, lots of information for me to read to you. So before we go into the slideshow, I'm going to read this part right here for you, and then we'll go into a slideshow while I read the other information. The vertebrates are all animals having the following characteristics in common. They have a backbone and internal skeleton. They have their main senses located in their heads. They have bodies made of segments. They all have bilateral symmetry. They have a closed circulatory system. This subphylum is composed of several classes, and then 5 of them are class Osteichthyes, which are the bony fish, class Amphibia, frogs and salamanders, class Reptilia, snakes, lizards, alligators, class Aves, the birds, and class Mammalia, humans, horses, deer, and mice. You just heard UPS dropping off a package for us. You don't have to go get it right now. Okay, so I have lots of information about vertebrata, and if we were in the classroom, I'd read a couple of them, but have you read them as part of your follow-up. But since you are not in the classroom and the material's here at my house, I'm going to read it to you while you look at the slideshow. So enjoy these pictures from Subphylum Vertebrata while I read you some cards. Hang on, here we go. Subphylum Vertebrata. The subphylum Vertebrata contains all the animals which have a backbone. The backbone is a series of bones, each of which is like a ring that is inserted and joined to the neck, and they sit loosely on top of each other so they can move. Each of these rings is called a vertebra. From these comes the name vertebrata. The animals with a backbone is called a vertebrate. Oh, the animal with a black backbone is called a vertebrate. Not only do the vertebrates possess a black backbone, but they also have a skeleton, a bony structure, which is inside their body. This helps to support the muscles to such an extent that many of the vertebrates could assume a large size. Think of the dinosaurs. It is rather like having a bag and putting sticks inside the bag. It will stand up because the bag is supported by the sticks. But if the sticks are taken away, the whole bag collapses. That is why the bones are made of a hard substance. The body has to move, too, and to allow this movement, the bones are connected in a special way. We call these articulations or joints. Because of this, you can bend your knees, you can bend your fingers and toes, and you can bend your back. Most of these bones are hollow tubes. This makes them of little weight and great strength. If you take a sheet of paper and try to make it stand, it won't stand on its own, but what will you do? What can you do to make it stand? Think about rolling the paper and forming a hollow tube. Not only then will it stand, but it will also support the weight of something much greater than itself. The body of the vertebrates contains two cavities. One of them is formed by the bones of the head and is prolonged inside the hollow formed by the vertebrae. Inside this cavity are special masses of cells. The mass of cells in the head are the brain and the cerebellum. Those inside the tube in the vertebrae or backbone are the medulla. The other cavity is located lower down in the body. At the bottom of this cavity are the set of bones which look like a shallow plate and is called the hip girdle. At the top end are the spinal column, the sternum, and the ribs, which curve around and form a sort of expandable cage. Inside this cage are the lungs, the organs for breathing, and the heart, the organ for pumping blood. At the lower end of this cavity are the organs which help the animal to digest its food and expel its refuse: the stomach, the liver, the intestines. All these organs taken together, the ones which help breathing and the ones that help in digesting food, are called vegetative organs. All the vertebrates possess vegetative organs, though their structure varies from one class of animals to another. The fish, for example, do not have lungs but breathe by means of gills. They also have a very weak heart composed of only 2 chambers, whereas the hearts of the birds and the mammals consist of 4 chambers. The way the vegetative organs function does not depend on the will of the animal. For example, you cannot ask your heart to stop beating, or if you eat something, you cannot do anything about what happens afterwards. Each vegetative organ is special. Each is composed of a special type of cell with a special ideal. Their ideal is the work that they do, and nothing else seems to matter to them. It is as though they are saying that this is the whole world, and that there's nothing else beyond that. Each of the millions of tiny cells that go to make up the body of an animal need oxygen and gives out carbon dioxide in order to live. This is done by the blood, a liquid which carries the oxygen to the cells and takes away the carbon dioxide. The oxygen comes from the lungs, which are adapted to take it from the air. In the case of the animals living in water, this is done by gills, which are specially adapted to take in oxygen from the water. The blood itself has different kinds of cells in it. One of them has the task of carrying oxygen. These cells are colored red. You can see how they move if you look at the tail of a tadpole under a microscope. They are so numerous that they give the blood its red color. As the blood flows throughout the body like a river, it forms a closed circuit. It goes from the heart to every part of the body, then back to the heart. The process of going along this circuit is called circulation. This happens in you and me, and in every other vertebrate. That is why the vertebrates are said to have red blood circulation. Phew! We just learned a lot about Subphylum Vertebrata. In fact, so much that it's going to take a lot of thinking about some of these things to really kind of put it in perspective. So we learned things like the 2 different cavities of the body, and one of the cavities is from the top of the vertebra up through the head, and so that's where our senses are, our brain, the different parts of our brain. And the second cavity is the section from here, you can't see, down to my hip bones, and all of the organs that exist in this second cavity. So things like my heart and my lungs that help me breathe and pump my blood and circulate my blood, but then also down into my stomach where the rest of the vegetative organs are that help with the digestion of my food and the cleaning of things from my body. So your stomach and your liver and your intestines. So it's actually really cool to learn about these this phylum, or this, I guess we're in a subphylum, but the subphylum of Vertebrata, and how really cool our bodies are. So I hope that you learned something new. Maybe what you learned was the where the word bilateral comes from. So latera meaning sides, so 2-sided. So if you see, I'm gonna lift him up here. You can see this little person with his line drawn through him. So you can see that it's the same on both sides. Here you can see that internal skeleton that keeps our bodies able to move. There's the circulatory system with the heart pumping the blood, and there is the spinal, the connection of all those, the spinal from the brain all the way down your backbone. Okay, Subphylum Vertebrata has so much information in it, so much to learn about this one. So I didn't tell you the pictures on here. There's an elk, a hawk, and an alligator. They're hard to see. So those are more pictures or more creatures that are in Subphylum Vertebrata. Subphylum Vertebrata is part of phylum Chordata, and Chordata is part of kingdom Animalia. Wow, Abby's really excited to see how it all nests together, it all layers together to make one big group of all creatures on Earth. Okay, next time we're going to dive more deeply into phylum Chordata. Your finger's not on it.
Oh.
Phylum Chordata, Subphylum Vertebrata. We're going to look at one of those classes and see more creatures that are in Kingdom Animalia. I can't wait to see your follow-up. See you next time.
Goodbye.